Oh, that's interesting. You're able to add through Facebook, through the Zoom.
Mm-hmm.
That's amazing.
I love it. Yep. I like going live on Zoom because then I have all of my details, and then as opposed to doing direct live onto Facebook. So
Yeah,
that was
I
a
never knew
little
you
bit
could do
better.
that. I just saw it pop up at the top.
So let me get our Facebook interaction appropriately going. It looks like we are now live. Let me get back over to our live stream. So hello and good afternoon, everybody. Super excited to be here today. Happy Monday. Happy magnificent Monday. It's been a whirlwind of a day over here at the Empowerment Empire. Super excited. We have so much going on. We've got our ST Voyager news magazine come out this week. We're going to be doing a live television interview on Thursday, and then on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, we are going to be speaking with another phenomenal woman in our International Women in Business Mastermind. So welcome to the program, everyone. We are going live in one of our most favorite Facebook groups, our Latina Entrepreneurs Jefas Unidas, and then this recording will be shifted over to our new YouTube channel. So make sure you do the whole like and subscribe, and I will post those links a little bit later here. So what is the International Women in Business Mastermind? This was a program that was designed about 5 years ago when I started to meet just phenomenal women who were entrepreneurs, who were business owners, who were just go-getters and movers and shakers. And I really wanted an opportunity to share them with the audience that I was creating and the different Facebook groups that I was creating that were really focused on business women of diversity, women who were really looking forward to connect with like-minded individuals and share our expertise and our talents. I am always one to say that vote with your dollars. Remember to vote coming up, vote with your dollars, and really support one another. Yes, we can be here for one another emotionally and through all of the likes and the comments and the hearts and the shares. But what we really benefit from is when you financially support one another. So my desire for the International Women in Business Mastermind program is that I'm able to feature entrepreneurs and business owners that you can absolutely connect with right away and book appointments, purchase their services, really financially support one another in a way that you would do your local grocery store. I mean, you need all of the things that we are offering here in this entrepreneurs group and on our Empowerment Empire YouTube channel. So make sure you take advantage and support local women, support your sisters in their businesses as you ask them to support in yours as well. So I'm really excited to be connecting with Jennifer today on our IWB Mastermind. We've been connecting a couple of different places, and I was just like, I just want to feature you. Let's just talk about all the things that you do, have you share your expertise. She's been talking about financial things, money management things. And I'm like, we just need to do a full-on presentation of like, give us all your expertise. So give me just one moment. I would love to introduce her officially. So our special guest today in the International Women in Business Mastermind is Jennifer Lara. She is a best-selling author, an experienced financial education coach, entrepreneur, multiple speaker, busy mama, as so many of us are, who is committed to empowering women of color and ambitious entrepreneurs on financial growth. She is passionate about collaborating with other women and hosts networking events and retreats for women in business to build true, authentic relationships with other female leaders. It is a true honor that we talk about today, a roadmap to financial success, how to take control of your financial future with one of our favorite financial education coaches, Miss Jennifer Lara. Welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you so much for that warm welcome. I'm so excited to be here. And yes, you're totally right. We've been getting to know each other on so many other things that it was about time
Yep.
that we did this.
Absolutely. I I love being able to take the time to not only to meet with other women entrepreneurs who are really who I love that you throw in there like women of color, women of diversity. One of the reasons why I wanted to start programs like this is because I wanted to really highlight and feature women of diversity and all of the amazing things that we are doing. And so I go and I seek out women who are like, you know what, we need some financial knowledge. Who do we know that's a woman of color, that's a woman of diversity who can come in and provide that training to us? So I'm excited that Jennifer has a presentation for all of us here today. Logistically speaking, as you're watching here live in our Facebook group, I hope you all are having an awesome afternoon. Make sure that you comment and let us know that you're here. I will be monitoring comments so that if you have any questions, just post them in the chat, post them right here on our live stream, and I will make sure that Jennifer gets the opportunity to answer these questions. And then also, if you catch the replay of the program, still post your comments, still post your questions. There's never a question that is not warranted here in the financial world. So I'll make sure to get those questions to her. So as we begin, Jennifer, would you like to go ahead and take over with your presentation that you have for us today?
Of course. So I'm going to share my screen, right?
Yep.
Okay, let me get into presenter view.
It was doing something a little wonky the other day. And so once I shared my screen, the sharing kind of stopped. And so if you have that problem, go to reshare and then choose the app. You'll see.
Okay. Yeah, that's good to know. You just never know with technology,
There's always
it'll
some
do
fun
its
little
own thing sometimes.
always these fun little updates that you're like, oh, okay, I guess I do this now.
Exactly. So let me get on here onto presenter mode, as I mentioned. I have actually never done this on Facebook, so this is very interesting.
Oh, fun. Yeah, just go to, yep, right there to present.
There it is.
Regular, and it should, great. I love the photo, by the way.
Thank you. Yeah. I think I got ahead of myself. Actually, I was one slide ahead.
No worries. There we go. Yep, I can see your presentation.
Perfect. So this is what I wanted to share with you ladies. As I said, I'm super excited to share this with you all. I think sharing a roadmap for financial success is so important, especially in our community, right? So I made this presentation specifically for first-gen professionals, first-gen entrepreneurs, and women of color. And the goal is to empower you to take control of your financial future without feeling overwhelmed, right? Because sometimes it does seem overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be.
Yeah, absolutely.
So just a little bit about me. As Vihil mentioned, I am a money education coach, and I love to work with women who are ambitious and women who are, women of color, because I want to actually share this with you all. But here's some statistics that have made me all that more passionate about sharing this with women of color. This is a slide from Pew Research. This puts it into perspective, our earnings as women of color in comparison to white males. So you can see here on this graph that Asian women are making about, in comparison to white men, about 53,000, but Hispanic women are making much, much less than that. It's about 32,000, and also Black women are making much less as well. That's about 36,000. And honestly, these results are very astonishing. I think there's so many factors to this, right? Like, many of us are still first generation. Many of us are still getting into that career, into the business, into the world, right? And as women in general, many of us didn't even have rights not that long ago to even vote, to even start our own bank accounts, to invest, to do anything really. So in a sense, we're playing catch up and we're learning and we're creating this new generation of women that are able to do this for themselves and take control of their financial future.
These sort of statistics always like astound me.
Me too. It's
It's
so
like, oh my
shocking to
gosh.
me.
I mean, when you
And
really look at it, it's like it's insane. It's such a huge disparity.
it's a huge difference. It's a huge gap. And it just gets me thinking about history so much. I don't know if I'm the only one, but I think about our history in this country and
Definitely.
our history in Latin America and our history in Europe. It's just so much that plays into it. And we need to really learn about these things so that we can get like be empowered and take ourselves out of that story that they've put us into.
Exactly.
So I want to share this because, as I said, I want to empower you to believe that you have everything within you to live your life the way that you desire it. So even if you don't know where to start, even if you're not sure what to do, and even if you're feeling completely overwhelmed and confused. And I also want to share some free tools with you ladies because this is a really good place to start is tracking your expenses. When you track your expenses, you have an idea of where your money is going. You can eliminate habits that aren't useful and you can really start to put it into better places that can actually be fostering your growth and your business growth instead of, whatever else that's not supporting you. And I also want to share these health and wealth money mantras because these mantras have been the ones that have helped me triple my income within literally a month. I was been able to do that, and it's just from me really believing that I can do this for myself and knowing that I have the tools and that I have everything that I need to do that for myself. So that being said, it's a good idea if you're watching this to eliminate all distractions and just, pay as much attention as you can so you can soak in as much information. And I hope that by the end of this, you are feeling more clear, you're feeling stronger, and you're feeling calmer due to having the tools and feeling more organized and also feeling supported. I think, and feeling understood. I think that is a big part in things, when you don't really feel like somebody gets your background. And I want to share a little bit about what I personally did because I know a lot of people can resonate. I tried to do everything all at once without taking it step by step. I don't know about me, but I definitely think this is an entrepreneur thing. We just have so many dreams, we have so many passions, we want to do it all. And we just throw ourselves into it like we have unlimited time in the day, right? And I also just wasn't knowledgeable about how to better allocate my money. And I thought I could do it, because I was like, no, I am savvy. I am making the right investments. But here I was, investing my money into things like cars instead, which, as you may or may not know, cars are actually not the best investment. They actually can be a terrible investment in some cases, like mine, buying this fancy BMW that was so much fun and had twin turbo and it was amazing. I loved it. But these cars, they depreciate in value so much. The moment you take them off the lot, they're worth like much less than they were the moment you bought it. So I want to talk about, why certain investments are not the best investments and why certain investments are better investments than others. And for that reason, I was losing thousands of dollars. It's it's hard when you look back at it, right? But you have to really be able to move past those mistakes so you can move forward. And it wasn't long until I got tired of not progressing in my goals. I knew I had to get out of my comfort zone and try something that I had never tried before, because I think this is also our thing as entrepreneurs, that we sometimes get stuck in a cycle and we think we're moving forward because we're moving, but we're not moving actually necessarily forward. And this is why I'm sharing this with you, because I know where you are now and I know the steps that you need to take to accelerate your growth and to help you save you the struggle so you can reach your goals faster. This is the biggest thing for me that I want to share, is that I stopped allowing my limiting beliefs to interfere with my progress. And I don't know how many of you are aware of your limiting beliefs, right? Because many of us go day by day not actually acknowledging that certain things are holding us back. So it takes a lot of self-reflection on your part to kind of acknowledge those things that are holding you back. When I stopped doing that, I really allowed myself to manifest everything that I truly wanted. And I became clear on my goals and my vision. I also started saving and making hundreds of thousands to the right investments and feeling absolutely abundant, which is an amazing feeling, by the way. And I'm not at all worried about past financial mistakes. I actually look back at those pictures, like with the BMW, and I'm like, that was so funny, that I thought that was a good idea. We learn from these mistakes. And now I get to help women do the same, make those right investments and learn about those investments that are going to foster that growth. So I'm featured in Becoming an Unstoppable Woman in Finance book. And tomorrow, actually, this Mom Magic Mompreneur book is actually going to be published. So that's really exciting. I'm also featured in podcasts that you can find on my Instagram. And I'm also featured on NBC right now. So I want to ask you this because, as I said earlier, there are certain things that may be holding you back that you are not aware of. So I want to bring it to light a little more. If you've said certain things to yourself, like, I have no idea where to start, and that keeps you from starting, right? Or I have no time, too many priorities such as family and kids and work, and I'm not good with money. Money needs to be held on to. Or you have to work hard for money, right? Like if I'm not, I have to get an extra job, I have to do this to be making more money.
Yeah,
And
Jennifer, these are really profound, just to call attention to them. It's so many of us have no idea on where to start, because we're oftentimes raised with that, where that we don't get to be in control of our finances. We don't get to be in charge of money, or that we're not brought into the money conversations in our families, that, we're usually just, told, don't worry about it. Like, someone else is handling the finances. Or even if, like the matriarch of your family was, handling the finances, it wasn't something that's really openly talked about in our families. I think, we may be raised being told, be careful how you spend your money, but there really is not those conversations on, okay, well then what do I do with my money, and how can I be good with, money management, and what do I do to be more successful and have more income. But when there's sometimes like you in the BMW, that was me with my, my Jeep Grand Cherokee, when I was, I was spending more on my Jeep payment than I was paying for my studio apartment, and I was in college. And it was,
yeah, I was in college too.
yeah, I thought, oh, let me go get this brand new vehicle, that I loved. And I was, I was living up in the Redwoods. And so I was like, yeah, of course I need a Jeep Cherokee, Granted, I was
I knew
like,
this, right?
yeah, I was 20 years old, and, I was only working, like part-time at a job, and all of my expenses were really going to school. But for some reason, I thought I could handle, like a $600 car payment at the time, when my my studio apartment was barely $500 a month for rent. And that just, if you really think about it in those terms, I was paying more for my vehicle on a monthly basis than I was for where I lived. And that just doesn't sound right to me.
Yeah, exactly. And I love that you point that out because I think it's just having that financial literacy, right? I have this really
Exactly.
cool slide too that I like to share about the 50-30-20 rule. Have you heard about that?
I have.
The
Yeah.
budgeting one? Yes, I love to share that one because it really puts it into perspective, right? Like w- certain things like a Jeep, might be a want and not actually a need.
Exactly. Exactly. Thank you for letting me interject right there. I was like, we need to call attention to this because so many of us do this.
No, of course. And I'm so glad that you brought that up because that's so true. It really does come down to the way we were raised and our environment and what we learned about money growing up, you know? And for many of us, our parents didn't have that financial literacy. So they didn't couldn't teach us. And then money being so stigmatized at the same time, we don't talk about it. We don't talk about Bruno. It was one of those things. And I read the statistic the other day that said that Latinos rather talk about sex than money. And I was like, that's so interesting because they absolutely do not want to talk about sex. So it's so
That is,
true.
that is so funny. That is so very true. Like we want to talk about what so and so is doing down the street as opposed
Yeah,
to talk about things that are actually going to influence our lives. And this is, I'm
exactly.
glad you
Yes.
said that because this is where we make the point, of joining groups like Latina entrepreneurs, so that we can try to stop and break those stigmas and break those cycles of, let's not be so focused on what, what's going on down the road or what auntie so and so is going to say about this person. Let's talk about money. Like I've talked before about, especially in our May Money Talks Mastermind, how I've talked to you about being a feature there, where, let's think about it as, when we're sitting around the kitchen table in my family, we used to sit around my grandma's kitchen table and talk shop, but never did that shop conversation have anything to do with money unless someone stole money or lost money.
Yeah,
It
right.
was not
Unless it was
about,
something so extreme.
yeah, it wasn't about building or growing and learning. And I'm so glad that you bring these things up because it's
Yes, that's so true. Yes, the chisme is priority, right?
exactly.
Yes, and it's so crazy because there's so many things that if you would just talk about it, you could not be a victim to, it's like certain things like a wage gap,
Yeah,
how much is everyone else at your work getting paid in comparison to you, how much is everyone else making in the business in comparison to you, we really need to put those things in perspective, and that's why we need to talk about these things so that you're not being taken advantage of, or just because you're a woman of color that you're not valued as highly as others.
exactly. Exactly. So what do we do?
So I did want to say that those are holding you back, right? Those thinking like I don't know where to start. So that's the reason why I get stuck on analysis paralysis and don't move forward. So the reason I share these is because there is something that you can do. Let me first, I want to share that this is from my course that I recently published. It's called Becoming a Savvy Finance Female Accelerator. The first thing you want to do, right, is learn financial literacy, track your expenses, learn about investing, have a workbook, a journal, somewhere where you can really reflect on those thoughts and rewrite your money story is what I call it, right? Because so many things that were embedded in you as a child, like you want to reframe those thinkings, reframe the fact that you can do this for yourself. You have everything within you to live your desired life, and you don't have to work harder, and you don't have to let go of your other priorities, right? It's all possible. And I share all that financial literacy in detail in my program. And in this program, I really talk about creating those goals for yourself. The number one thing that you want to do is make sure that you have a vision, right? You want to think ahead, think 5 years ahead, think 10 years ahead. Where do you see yourself in 10 years? Create those goals for yourself and understand your why. What's really pressing you to achieve those goals? What is the reason why you want to be financially free? Is it that you want to spend more time with your family? Is it that you don't want to work as hard as you saw your parents working, right? For many of us, we saw our parents hustle, 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 never take a break. And that was so ingrained in them that they're just like, it's just so normal for them to not take time off, to not get some rest when they're tired, to not take some time when they're sick or anything. And we kind of ingrained that in ourselves, right? We're hustlers now. But we also want to learn how we can allow ourselves to relax, to take time off. And those are goals that you can create for yourself. And then the second thing you want to do is you want to build a plan. My favorite thing ever is talking about SMART goals, creating those measurable, specific goals, right? And once you have those goals, you can break them down into smaller goals. So if you created a year plan, you know what you want to achieve from a year from now. What can you be doing this month to be closer to that goal? What can you be doing this week to be closer to that goal? What can you be doing today to be closer to that goal? And number three is that you really want to be doing those activities. You really want to make sure that as I mentioned, on a daily basis, on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, you are working on those steps to really get there and, be focused. And the fourth thing that I share is reviewing your progress. We're coming really close to the end of the year already. I cannot believe it's November. But my favorite thing ever is reviewing the year, right? At the end of the year, reviewing how the year went, talking about, your investments, talking about your achievements, your friendships, your everything that went on this year. Really think about it and reflect on it and think and just be grateful, for the things that went really well.
I'm glad that you brought up the framework and that you talk about that. What I've spoken to several, entrepreneurs about this, and for some reason, there's this misconception that when you work through a framework such as you've created here, that it takes a lot of time, and it really doesn't. I mean, all you really need to do is, yes, when you want to really flesh out those goals, building your plan and working every day on those activities, if you would spend, just 20 to 30 minutes a day exclusively focused on, working on a financial plan or working on your financial, growth and stability, then you would see so much improvement at the end of the week, at the end of the month, the quarter, for for every year as you move forward, that it doesn't actually take an exorbitant amount of time. What it really does is it takes planning. And if we just make sure that we, put it in our calendars. I mean, I was looking around for my planner. My planner is like 376 pages long for a reason,
Exactly.
because my favorite thing that I do is I'm able to look at my days from, the time, like a little bit before I get up until the time that I go to sleep. And I'm able to see how much time we really do have. So many will say, oh, that just takes so much time, I just don't have the time. No, you have time for what you prioritize.
Yeah.
And I think that we just need to prioritize this a little
Yes,
bit every
I agree
day.
100%. If you're not doing that, you're really going to get jumbled again on that. I don't know where to start, right? You don't know where to start because you haven't sat down to create a plan. And if you don't create a plan, then you don't have any direction, anywhere to go. And you're going to be, very overwhelmed and confused on a day to day. And that's just not a good way to feel, especially if you have lots of goals that you do want to achieve.
Exactly. That is how we achieve our goals. That's how we find our financial success, our business success, our personal life success. I talk about sometimes when I do some lives where, my daughter Victoria, she's in fourth grade, and when
Oh,
she is like 13, her idea is she wants to go to the Coliseum. So we
oh.
have a plan already designed so that she knows what is it going to cost to fly there, what is it going to cost to stay for like a week or however long she wants to stay. And I really am helping her to figure out when she's at that age that this thing that she gets to look forward to, is that every month we're going to put this little chunk of money into this particular bank account. That's our
Uh-huh.
European trip, because it's we want these great things to happen for ourselves and for our lives, but if we don't have like an infinite pocket of money to just throw down and go do whatever whenever, and even if we did, the thing that you really want to do is you want to make smart financial decisions. And by planning out and following an action plan, that's where you can find the greatest levels of success. I love that you brought
Exactly. Yes. And I'm so glad that you're teaching your daughter those skills, right? Because those are skills that we learn. And it takes learning about them early on so that you're not working so hard to undo certain habits that you never learned, or learn a new skill that you never learned. It's just going to be so much harder.
Right. Hopefully she won't be buying a expensive vehicle when she's in college working part-time, because that's our responsibilities as parents, as entrepreneurs, as so many of us are, first gen going into entrepreneurship. Let's really take that responsibility to share that knowledge with those around us, and by doing things like the IWB Mastermind, and by participating in our Facebook groups, and really sharing in that knowledge and in our experiences, so that we can level up our sisters, we can level up our children, our future generations. I think it's so important we openly talk about such things.
Exactly. Yes. Essentially, what you're doing is you're really breaking that cycle of illiteracy and that connection with your daughter, right? To actually build an authentic bond besides chismes.
Yeah, exactly,
You're
exactly.
teaching her something very valuable.
Yeah.
So that is why I want to talk about that mindset that we shared on the earlier slides. We talked about that feeling of, I don't know where to start, so I get stuck on analysis paralysis. I feel like money controls me instead of me controlling my money, and I need to work harder and longer to make more money and have no time to many priorities. So, what you want to do instead is you really want to work towards shifting that mindset and transforming your view of financial opportunities that can shape what you believe are allowed, entitled, and able to earn. This is so important. So this is what you said, Vihil. You said, so what can we do, right? This is where we can start. We can start by reframing those thoughts. Instead of saying, I don't know where to start, you can say, I can get unstuck by reframing my thinking and taking it step by step with guidance and with planning, right? Which is what we talked about. And instead of saying, I feel like my money controls me, instead of having control of my money, we can say, I can thrive financially no matter where I am starting, because that is exactly the truth. It doesn't matter where you're starting. Even if you have a lot of debt, even if you've never invested before, it's all totally possible. And saying things like, I need to work harder and longer to make more money are also not exactly the case. You don't need to work harder, you just need the right strategies. And I have no time to many priorities, such as kids and family. You could also say, making more money doesn't have to be hard or time consuming. It really doesn't have to be. And that really takes away from that clutter in your mind that tells you that this is impossible for you, because it is possible for you. You just really have to take a step back when you find yourself getting stuck in some of these thoughts. These thoughts can be holding you back. So try to reframe that thinking that's, stopping you from getting where you want to be. And I want to also say to stop doing this. This is going to be really important. Stop letting your family hold you back. Our family members don't know much about, many of our family members don't know much about investments and saving and stuff like that. If they hear you're trying to make an investment or something, they may try to talk you out of it and be like, oh, no, $10,000 onto this thing. It's too much, And listening to friends and family's uneducated advice, them telling you what you need to do, how much you need to be in saving and investing, it may also not be the most beneficial thing for you. And we've seen this before. Following social media trends is not a good idea. That does not work out well. Also, following random pages that give blanket advice and are telling you what to invest in and telling you certain things that aren't really specifically tailored to you, right? Everyone has a different starting point, everyone has different goals. So taking blanket advice that's meant for a general population, is not going to work. Also, hanging out with the wrong people. My favorite quote is that you are the average of the 5 people that you hang out with and spend time with. And that is so true. And the shows you're watching, all that takes into play when you are really wanting that growth. These things can really be keeping you from taking control of your financial future and becoming financially free, and also being organized and creating a plan and taking action. If you're not hanging out with the right people, if you're not, hanging out with other ambitious women that are entrepreneurs, this is the reason why I'm so happy that I can be in groups like the Jefas Unidas, right? Because now I get to really surround myself by other ambitious mompreneurs and women of color that are working so hard to achieve their dreams too. And we can support one another, right? And for that, I want to share some of these transformations because I want to show you that it is possible for you, right? I have had clients that are also in the same boat, that are their first gen, and they have felt very overwhelmed and confused in the world of finances and investments and saving. And they feel much more confident after having all that knowledge with them, having that financial literacy, having the support, and having someone that understands their background. It goes such a long way. So this is Patricia's case, and she is happy that she's learning how to make money work for her, and she can feel peace, right? That's going to be the biggest thing, is feeling peace. I think that peace comes with financial freedom, right? And this is another client of mine, Naomi. I think her biggest thing when I spoke to her was lack of trust. She had a hard time really wanting to reach out and speak with a professional. And I think that's a lot of our cases as well, because I don't know about you ladies, but growing up, that was definitely the thing for my family, like having someone that understands their background and they can really trust. I always share this story about my parents when we lived in this neighborhood. They went to go see this open house because this house was about to sell. They were seeing this open house, and the real estate agent there, they walked in. He didn't even say, he didn't really try to greet them, try to go up to them and talk to them and ask them what they're looking for, anything. Like, he just kind of assumed maybe that, they weren't really going to buy, or I don't know, because they were people of color, that they couldn't afford it, or that they weren't worthy, or I think it was a white neighborhood as well. So they were it was just very, heartbreaking that, and that I'm sure that for themselves that they felt the same way, right? They probably didn't want to talk to him either. And it's that lack of trust, right? Because we don't really see, very many people, women of color in these spaces. We would mostly see white males and stuff like that, that would make you feel a little apprehensive about reaching out and speaking to them because they didn't understand their background. So this is why it's so important to find somebody that really understands your background and get that support that you need so you can really move forward. And this was the case for Naomi. So I'm very happy that we are bringing this to light as well. So I just want to ask you a question. I want to ask you, what is your why? What is your goal? And, where do you see yourself in the next 10, 15 years? And even the next 5 years? I want you to take the moment to reflect on that and just give yourself the time to think about why you want to achieve those goals. And also think about the systems, think about the plans, think about the organization and the literacy that you can really start taking in so you could get to those goals where you are instead of thinking, I don't have time and I don't know where to start, right? I want you to believe that you have it all in you. You have everything that it takes. You just need the right tools and you just need the strategy. And that being said, I want to offer my support and I'm here for you. I know that as women of color, we want to do better. We want to break those cycles. And if you're a cycle breaker, then you're in the right place. So you can always book a call with me. I can always share free resources with you. And I said I would share the other ones, right? The expense tracker and the money mantras. So I'll go ahead and share that. But for the time being, you can book a call and we can figure out what your goals are from there.
If you want to post the link in our Zoom chat here, I can make sure that we post it into our discussion as well.
Yeah, that's perfect. And I'll also share those tools that I mentioned. But that being said, thank you so much for being here. And thank you, Vihil, for having me. This was amazing. I loved it. And I loved having this conversation with you and talking about our experience, right? And our investments.
Absolutely. I love the way that you explain where we have mentally come from. Are talking, I love that you talked about like our family mindset. I love that you talked about how we might have difficulties in getting over some of the past decisions that we have made about our finances. And I love that you mentioned that it's not too late to begin. Like each day is a new day to begin a new path. And I love that you talked about that, in that it's not that we have to continue to beat ourselves up over past financial mistakes. What we need to do simply is decide today that we are taking charge of our situations and that we are going to sort of remove the blinders. I know so oftentimes and I did this myself for years, where I didn't want to think about my financials. I didn't want to talk about my financials because I just didn't want to deal with it. I was
Yeah.
really good at working hard and seeing the money go in the bank, but I was of course really good at spending it. But there wasn't a plan involved for so many years, because no one sort of stopped me in my tracks and said, look at the money that you're currently making. What can you put aside every time you make something off of your work, off your product, off your services, off what you do, off what you're selling, off of your regular professional job. If you're doing that, then, if you just take a certain amount of money every time you get money and put it into this particular account, by the time you're ready to buy something really big, like a house, like,
Exactly.
a world travel trip, that you'll be able to do those things. And I think that we need to
Yeah,
remember it's not too late to start that type of planning.
exactly. Yeah. And doing them guilt-free, right, is huge too. I think because many of us grow up with that scarcity mindset, we just feel so much guilt over making certain investments, and even investing in ourselves. It's so difficult for us
Yeah.
because we just have that belief that, money needs to be held on to, because if I'm not holding on to it, then I may lose it, or, you know,
Yeah, I think that some of the most difficult conversations I've had around when I share with, folks that like what I do is business coaching for women. And so they're like, well, people pay you to talk to them, but you're not a therapist. You're not like a licensed doctor. I'm like, no, it's like, right? Like having those
yeah.
conversations in that you are worth investing in. Like
Yes.
the knowledge that you carry, it's common for us to believe we can pay to go to college, but once we're out of college, or if we don't go the college route, it's important that we invest in ourselves in some sort of continuing knowledge, some sort of support and encouragement, and get those pieces of information that we need to be able to live better lives. It is okay to invest in yourself. And I think that's one of the biggest obstacles that so many of us face, is not only in our own belief system, but in what those we are surrounded by, if and perhaps mostly that is our family.
Yeah,
Do they believe that we deserve to invest in ourselves, and is that even something that they would consider doing for themselves?
exactly. There's so much that comes into play, right? And that's why I'm such a huge advocate of thinking abundantly, and fostering an abundance mindset.
I love it. Thank you so very much, Jennifer. If you could give us, we have just a couple of more minutes, if you could give us just your final thoughts on what would be the best next steps for someone listening to this presentation to do.
Of course. Well, one thing that I do say, and I always say, and I'll say it over and over again, is invest in yourself, invest in your knowledge, invest in the courses, the coaches, in your growth, in your business growth. Anything that's going to help you get one step closer to where you want to be, it's going to be worth it, as long as you're taking those educated risks, as long as you're doing your research, as long as you never stop learning, you're going to get there.
Absolutely. Thank you so very much, Jennifer, for your time, for
Thank
your
you.
knowledge, for your awesome passion of this topic. This is something that we need to continue having conversations about over and over and over again, to help normalize this idea that, we deserve investing in. We should empower ourselves to talk about money, to talk about finances, and to really learn, and to make these appointments with experts such as Jennifer. Like, book a call with her to have those conversations so you can give yourself that opportunity to learn. I think that the more that we are seeing ourselves as lifelong learners, the better opportunities that we will have for ourselves, for our businesses, and for our future generations. If you are interested and you're watching the program, you're interested more in the International Women in Business Mastermind, of which this program was a part of, and you would like to be a speaker, or you're interested in getting more information on those who have been featured here in our program, please reach out to me, Vihil Vigil, your women's empowerment business coach. You can also find more of our videos on YouTube at the Empowerment Empire channel. I will post all of those links as we conclude our live program. We'll definitely get those links up for you to be able to contact Jennifer and make those appointments. And this was such a great conversation to have on a Monday afternoon. It really gives
Yes.
an awesome mindset for the rest of our week.
It
Like,
felt so refreshing.
yeah, pay attention to what we're consuming during the course of this week. Really be intentional on, surrounding yourself with positive people, with insightful and informative information. Try to do a week of no chisme if you can. you know
Yes. judge free. That's what I'm working on. I'm reading the book, the seven spiritual laws of success. And that was one of them. One of the first one was spend some time trying not to judge, not to judge others and situations.
Exactly. I love it. Thank you so much, Jennifer. I look forward to connecting with you again soon.
Thank
Um,
you.
Yeah, and for all of you who are watching this program, please post your comments and your questions, and I will make sure to connect you with Jennifer on those questions for her. If you have any questions for me as well about the programming, please go ahead and post them in the comments, and we will get back to you as quickly as possible. With that, have a fantastic rest of your Monday and have a phenomenal week. Make it as amazing as you could possibly could. Have a great day, everybody.
Yay.